So again, exactly what you just said, Kieran, is, oh, well, some people just need to go to Brazil for 2 weeks. That's basically the premise of why I created the resort model, so that people can go away to go through whatever process that they need to in terms of reasoning out in their own mind if it's okay for them to actually take the handcuffs off. I can't go into enough details about how people like Dr. Bruce Lipton have created a deep understanding in the relationship between a person having self-imposed limitations of the way they believe that they think they can't do something, and how that adds weight onto suppressing their immune system, so that whatever toxins are in the body have gone out of control, and now the immune system being suppressed because of this psychoneuroimmunological information. The immune system can't respond correctly to be able to fight off the toxic load. So we can pump them full of antioxidants. We can do clinical detoxification. We can use ozone. We can use all sorts of physical therapies. But until we address and identify what it is that I like to call, yesterday we spoke extensively about, the elephant in the living room. And they're walking around in their own house with this 3,000-pound elephant sitting in the living room, and they're like, you know, I don't want to really know about that. I'm just going to stay over here in my space. People that are not used to that idea, who've worked on themselves, they come into the living room and they say, well, how do I explain to my friend here that he's got no space to live in because it's occupied by this giant animal? And they don't want to approach it. They don't want to believe it's true. And they don't believe they can do anything about it. They don't believe they can do anything about it. Wow. And so Bruce Lipton's created a huge movement on understanding how to train doctors and how to train patients to see this elephant in the living room. So for me, core energetics is a tool so that I can identify whether or not the person is willing to sit down and explain to me, yes, I know I have an elephant in the living room. It's this big, it's this color, his name is Ted, you know, and he's a pain in the ass, and I really want to deal with this. Okay, but to be honest, 90% of the people I deal with, they haven't identified that that's even what's sitting in the living room. They haven't identified that that is what the problem is.
And then what does core help you to in this respect?
Well, it identifies it for me.
And then?
And then I can, then that's where the fun begins.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes. Once I've identified the problem, we have greater technology to even fix the problem. So I think that, yes, okay, you know, thanks, Kieran. You know, really, it's one thing to be able to use the new 6.0 operating system to identify, for me to identify the subtle information that on one level, yes, it's subtle, and another level, it's not subtle at all. I mean, how can you say that it's subtle when it's actually the problem that's suppressing the immune system, so the immune system won't be able to respond correctly to all the therapies and to be able to help get the toxins out of the body. So no, it's not that subtle, but once we've identified it, and then whether or not the person's willing to accept it and say, oh, you're right, you know, wow, I better move to Brazil, for 2 weeks so that I can, and I got to go alone. Normally his programming saying, oh yes, great. Yeah, I have to call the travel agent so you can book 2 tickets for my wife and I. And I said, are you sure that's what you want to do? And he said, well, you know, that's just what I've been doing for the last 30 years. And I said, well, why don't you try to do it and just go by yourself? Here's an interesting thing. I'll get to the hardware in a second. But when we have couples that are referred by all the, I work with a couple hundred clinics around the world, so I specialize in doctors' referrals. And we have a policy, and a lot of the doctors I work with know this. We don't accept couples. It's a real interesting reason why. Because after 20 years, we've seen that married couples or people that have been together for many years can't handle going through this process.
So now I know why we had the problem. Because I'll have to say this now. Now we know. You went against your own guidelines. Now I know why we had this problem. I just have to tell you this story because it's interesting. Like it was like 3 years ago. It was really, I still had apparently stuff stuck from my accident, and I really had gone over it quickly with the core system on an informational level. But then we saw this nice resort here, and he offered, you don't want to have a detox with us? And naively I said yes. And we came as a couple, Deborah and myself, and then we got the regimen, like you get like 2 chews a day, and most of the time you get some ozone in your ass, yes. or which is even harder, this was the time he didn't even have the machine, the manual way to do a colon cleanse, yes. Unbelievable, yes. So, first day, okay. Second day I was almost mad already, yes. I mean, and then the third night, and this is not a joke, I went out and said, I have to walk. And the whole horizon was in flames. I mean, this is how far it can go in like a detox process, yes. I was hallucinating, seeing, and I was running to the house where he was living, and wanted to wake him up to that we start running and get out of this. And he didn't open the door, and so I was left alone with those flames. And next morning, the first thing I was saying, I want breakfast. So and then I came back, maybe not totally detoxified, but I at least didn't lose my mind. But I can vouch for this. It was only because he went against his own guidelines, not to have couple. No, but I'm joking now. Deborah went through it all the way, and she's now much better, as you can see. Yes, she did it all the way. I'm halfway. So, I just want to say this. Now we know what the problem was. It was not the detox, it was just that she was also part of it.
Well, there's a lot to say about why we don't allow couples, and a lot of the doctors that send patients to me from their clinics in different countries, they know this, and they, what we'll do is we'll stagger the program so that, let's say, the male will come for the first 2 weeks, and then there'll be a point where maybe there's 3 or 4 days where they'll still be at the resort, and then the wife will come, let's say, and overlap, and then we'll have some couples counseling to discuss some things, and then the male, the husband will leave, and then the wife will come, and then they'll stay for another 2 weeks, because we have seen some truly unbelievable experiences when their, what I call their onion starts to unravel, and how it's quite impossible to allow a married couple of 30 years to be able to stay in the same residence and try to go through their process of unraveling their onion together. It is quite a challenging situation. And so you can ask Noy, who's been supervising patients for 10 years, we'll have to separate them, and they have to stay in opposite ends of the resort, and because it becomes quite conflicting. And so it's better that they have the opportunity to be able to go through this on their own and process their own onion of information on their own, by themselves, for themselves, and then that huge weight of that immunosuppression is lifted after a while, so that eventually the benefits of all of the detox process start to actually work. And then once their body starts to let go, their mind starts to let go, then we start seeing some great results. And yes, so, you know, after using core energetics and seeing it as a viewfinder for being able to identify what's the color of the elephant in the living room, what's it look like, how big is it, that person doesn't even know. When I ask them about, give me some details about your elephant in your living room, they're like, what elephant? I don't know. I can test them, and whatever I need to know is right there. Interestingly enough, some doctors have a separate monitor which is facing the person that's sitting there. I don't, because I believe that a lot of the time, 75% of the time, I can't feel comfortable about telling the person what I'm seeing on the screen, because it's going to cause too much disturbance for them. They're not ready to hear that the elephant is this big, it's got this color skin, it looks like this, the trunk is this long. They're not ready to hear it. They want to hear what crystals do they need, what kind of herbal medicine treatment they're going to get today, how long's their massage, what kind of massage they're going to get. Fine. I've learned over the years it's better not to start trouble before it's necessary. Let them go, enjoy the next week, don't go there, fine. Thus, things like bioresonance and the laser. It's a great tool to be able to help their emotional body first get stable and stay stable. And I really have a lot to say about things like the Health Navigator and being able to, we use homeopathic flower essences. And once I've identified the elephant in the living room, and then to be able to use a homeopathic flower essence and imprint it with whatever their issues are for that day and give it to them. But I also feel that the laser treatment and being able to imprint with their own field, it's really interesting, because I think if I was going to use a word to describe that, it provides stability on an energetic level. The Health Navigator, in terms of the treatment, it can provide a powerful tool for physical and emotional detoxification, but it seems that perhaps the laser is capable of providing some kind of, once they've gone into some uncomfortable space and they're feeling very stressed about being in a new place, DLE, they're in a new DLE, they're considering, can I go to Brazil without my wife? Is it possible? I mean, what's she going to do, you know? What am I going to do without her, you know? Can I find my socks without her? That's some serious uncomfortability. And they want to be, and so, okay, so when they're stretching their envelope, they're pushing their envelope a little bit, and they're thinking a little bit unusual than they normally think. This is where we have this window of opportunity to be able to see the best results. And it seems like when they're stretching their envelope a bit, the Bio LaesEr seems to be a good tool to be able to help when they're, in my interpretation, when they're stretching their envelope. Let's say that they're in their field of energy is a little bit unstable because this is new space and new territory for them. it seems this has the ability to be able to add stability to this strange space that they're in.
And I want to say something now, because we are here both investigators in an unknown field, and he has the practical experience, and this helps me a lot to also develop the more of the theory. And now many people talk about the belief system has to be changed. Yes, that's right. But first, there's two things. To be able, as he's seeing in so many people, you need to have, there has to be some strength. And this is what the LaesEr is giving a center, a focus, a new axis from which to operate, and that's the sense of self. But then I even go a step further and say, any belief system that you have will eventually be challenged, because it's not the design of our existence that you can have a belief system. Let's say, even I'm a free man, I can go to Brazil whenever I want. Let's say he comes to this point, then even this is something that is a belief system. And there is the design that we eventually can live without a belief system. So imagine that this is like the next step, but how to get there, and this is what I'm so happy. He's the testing person for all the new, not only hardware, but also the new philosophy parts. How to get people there. So first you have something real to hold on to, and that's a sense of self. And when I went to this detox, there was no LaesEr, and it was for me to help me to understand pure madness. I mean, I didn't have the toxins in me anymore that I could hold on to. Yes? And I didn't have yet something developed with the LaesEr to help me to really develop this sense of self. So I went out and I had a moment of really experiencing madness. And then, now what is the solution to all this? It's to develop a medicine of reset. See, detox is a reset, because you break down your habits and everything, and this was very useful. It's not so much about eliminating the toxins, which also helps, but it resets your information, because you go, and being without your partner is a big part of this, because the partner is what you hold on to, what gives you a reference point. So taking this away, you're there and you're in a new country, culture. I can recommend this to everybody. Come here, it's an amazing place, and you get the best treatment. Mainly because it's so unfamiliar. You are not going to a Texas clinic where you know everything, you know the climate, you know the people, you know no, it's a different culture and a different approach. And this is one form of reset, but we have to develop as a new medicine the different forms of reset. And detox is one. And then what we do yesterday, spending like in a cage with some tigers, several times the size. Look at Megan. Just something simple like this can be the reset of your life. Or being on an elephant, or being under an elephant, or something like this. This nature can be the reset that somebody needs, and it needs only, reset. It takes one button to press, it's the off button. And something you were trying to work and fix for hours maybe before is fixed. That's why our technical support said, did you press the off button first? Yeah? They were trying all kinds of things, but they didn't think about the off button. Yeah? So this is, we have as a medicine to develop this off button.
Yeah, I want to say
yeah.
something, because that's actually a metaphor I use in a lot of the work I do, is that most people have serious health problems. I'm sure, Marco, you have something to say about something like this, because their mind operates like a computer, but in normal thinking, we know that at a certain time at night, we've got to turn that computer off. We find the shutdown button and we click it and that's it. Close it. Most of the people I work on, they operate on a default mechanism where they allow their computer to stay on every day, every night, without clicking the shutdown button. Why? Well, that's what's so interesting, because first, when I bring it to their attention, they say, well, you're crazy. What are you talking about? I go to sleep at night. Yes, you lay down, you close your eyes, but their operating system's still running. And then you start getting into hormone imbalances and you know, estrogen and testosterone imbalances and you know, whatnot. And so therefore, yes, you can use bioidentical hormones to balance them, but that's on the physical level. There's a whole nother platform that needs to be identified first to, in my opinion, before you start giving them the bioidentical hormones. So because I asked them, hey, what about your computer? Why don't you shut it down? Your mind, why don't you close it at night? And they're in denial. They don't believe that I'm talking about the truth. So that's okay. What I like about core energetics is that I don't have to worry about the patient agreeing with me. Mm-hmm. I just open the system, module selection, it brings up the issues, and that's why I don't have the monitor sitting there, because they're not ready to see the information.
They shouldn't.
Okay, well, see, but I know some clinics I work with, they have it. And in my work, in most of the work I do, they're not ready to see it because it's going to cause too much disturbance. Yeah. And therefore, it's better that we just let them go on their merry way and go have their massage and acupuncture and whatnot. And so, and just to, you know, comment a little bit, when Kieran was going through his detox a few years ago, you know, to be fair, actually, every year Thailand has a burning season for agriculture, and they do actually burn at night from like midnight until 5 in the morning. And so actually he wasn't really hallucinating, to be fair. He actually did see the backside of our property actually was on fire, but it you know, we knew that it's, you know, it's every year and it's okay, it's under control. It's a burn it's a controlled burn is what they call it, to get the fields ready for planting. And but you know, I think the interesting comment that I have is that when you're not eating food for a week, your interpretation of reality is different. And so therefore, this is no longer a glass of water with a quarter of a glass in it. What this is a Hoover Dam. Things are perceived in a different scale. And that's very interesting because and so therefore, that being said, because people haven't been eating for a while, yes, we are doing detoxification, and it's based on fasting. Okay, that's an interesting subject when you're not allowing people to eat. Working with Dr. Yu in Shanghai, fascinating subject, because you want to talk about interesting situations with patients going through detox. Let's talk about Chinese people not eating for 24 hours, shall we? I mean, now that is some interesting subject material. You want to talk about emotional bodies going off the dark side of the moon, you know? I mean, you know, people in Shanghai, there's, you know, a lot to be said about, you know, the food and whatnot. And it's like, you know, you want to hear an interesting response about somebody, and you say, okay, well, you're going to be going through a 7-day detox program, and you won't be eating, or you're going to be eating some soup or whatnot. The immediate response to their face is, it's hard. You need a camera to catch it. You know, it's like, well, you know, can we reschedule for next year? It's not a very funny subject for them. So, and I think that, you know, when you take, because that's really, you know, the fastest way to be able to help a patient get from acidity to alkalinity is to be able to shut down the digestive tract. And therefore, besides the fact that we're going to be approaching their emotional body, which is the basis of a lot of the physical problems anyway, by the fact that they're not actually chewing, it stirs the bottom of the barrel in an enormous turbulent way, bringing the emotional body content to the surface a lot faster, and actually, in my experience, a lot sooner than they're ready. And therefore, yes, and so that's kind of going back to like the laser, where basically, okay, they're you know, if we were to have like Kirlian photography, you know, real Kirlian photography that can show the energy field at that point in, say, 7 or 8 days, which is, you know, some people say, oh, okay, I want to do a 7-day program. Actually, I don't do 7-day programs. We do 10, 12, 14, 21-day programs, because 7-day programs just is insignificant in terms of time regarding what the body and the mind need to go through. And around 7 to 8 days is when, if you could capture the information in their energy field going through this huge movement regarding what they're feeling and thinking, and their whole world's changing, that's what I believe that I like the Bio LaesEr, is because it's identifying this huge movement, and I guess, for lack of better words, maybe stabilizing.
That's my. I want to close this with this question. Actually, do you think, like, since you use this, the adverse reactions are reduced, like by having this like as an adjunct therapy, that it's not so strong anymore?
I think that we always have detox reactions on a physical level, but I think that what I see since I started using the BBR is that maybe the patient doesn't have as much emotional, yes, pendulum swinging extremes. You know, some people have such extremes. They want to quit the program right away. They want to go to the airport. They want to fly to Bangkok. They want to stay in a 5-star hotel. They want to get room service. They think this fasting is total bullshit. You know, and this is insane. And why do they want to do that? But I see when the person's emotions are peaking, and when they're, and you know, if we had ability to identify the extreme movement in their energy field that's directly related to that emotional peaking, that when they normally would overreact and say, no, I'm going to go get some money, I'm going to walk down the street, and I'm going to find some restaurant, and I'm going to sit down, I'm going to eat the first thing that I can see on the menu. It seems that we're seeing less emotional, extreme swings of the pendulum that they react to and follow through. There's a difference between experiencing it and following through with it.
In my opinion, if I can get in, is it creates an emotional response to one thing that's in mind and in emotion at the same time. It is, in the end, I'll be okay. You know, it creates this kind of bridge between the mind that says, no, you need to eat, you need me to gain control again, and your emotions going, whoa, whoa. It creates this kind of bridge saying, in the end of this, I'll be completely okay. You know? I don't know if you've seen this.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
That's something that I see a lot, like immediately. You know?
What you just said sort of triggered something, because, you know, yesterday we were talking a lot, and you know, what Kieran wants to do is maybe go to a temple soon, and we also work with the temple here in Chiang Mai, where a lot of times people will finish a 2-3 week program, and then we'll take them to a particular meditation monastery for a 10-day program where they dress in all white and they practice sitting meditation, walking meditation, chanting at early morning before sunrise, chanting again at 6 p.m. And it is a fantastic follow-up for what they've been through for 12 or 14 days, where their whole world is in a whole new space, and they need to ground it. Okay, well, what's a good way to follow up with that? Would it be to stay in a boutique resort hotel in downtown Chiang Mai where they can get room service, or would it be to go to a Buddhist monastery and sit and meditate? Well, so yesterday we spoke about this in Spencer here. He's been through my program a couple of different times, and he actually was one of the people that did go to the meditation monastery afterwards, and I think at some point we'll have, I'd like to have Spencer come and speak in the next day or so about his experience.